Sentinel sound a clap like a German logo.
Easy. One vice I done vice I don't represent for Sentinel. Sound.
This is Kabaka Pyramid, and right now you're tuning into the biggest and baddest podcast in the thing named Make We Talk by Sentinel Sound.
Greetings to each and everyone out there. You are listening to the second special edition of Make We Talk, the Dancehall podcast by Sentinel. My name is Allgi, and today I'm holding a reasoning with Pikkal from King Cham Sound out of Osaka and Masta Simon out of the legendary Yokohama-based Mighty Crown Sound, because I want to talk about the history of the Japanese reggae scene and the Japanese reggae scene in general. Pikkal, Simon, thanks so much for joining me. How are you guys? How's the whole situation with the pandemic in Japan?
Yo, we good still, you know. It's been going on from like when? Like February, March. So everything was kind of like, you know, quarantine time for like how many months? Like 2 months?
Yeah, I
in
think
Japan. Yeah. Everything's kind of like trying to get normal right now. Not the clubs, but no bars, no clubs, you know. But you know, is trying to like everybody's trying to be like normal right now, you know.
Yeah, then we got that state of emergency till 1 week ago, but now Japanese Prime Minister decided to lift it whole state of emergency now.
Yeah, it's like lifted, but it's like the state of emergency is like a little bit different, you know, compared to like England, Europe, or you know, like even in like America, you know, it's like a partial state of emergency. You know, you don't get locked up or you don't get arrested or nothing, you know. Yeah. So it's a little bit different, but you know, like Pikkal said, the prime minister just lifted the whole thing like last week actually.
Okay.
You know, a couple of days ago. Yeah, like I'm from Yokohama, and like Yokohama was kind of like Tokyo, and Yokohama was like they just lifted like last week? Yeah, Osaka got it like a little bit earlier.
Yeah, about 10 days ago, a little bit earlier than Yokohama and Tokyo.
Okay, wow. But it's good that it's kind of going back to normal, I guess.
Yeah, you know, it's a little bit, but you know, like it's hard though, because you know, we as like soundmen, we as like entertainers, you know, we can't perform in clubs or in like venues, you know, live house, like those, you know, the venues, you know, that thing is like still out.
Okay.
So there's no summer for us still, you know. No, all my events got canceled from March to August, end of August.
Yeah.
So yeah, for like 6 months, you know, it's gone, but it is what it is still, you know.
Exactly, and it hits the whole world the same. With us, it's the same. We canceled all our dates until like the end of the first few weeks of September. There could be some dates. We're still
Same
hopeful,
here.
but nobody really knows. But the whole quarantine, the whole COVID-19 crisis, that's also the reason why we guys are here, because that's why we started that podcast. And
Right.
this is, like I said, this is a special edition, the second special edition of our Make We Talk podcast. And the idea behind that is we did tour Japan for the last 3 years, 2017, 18, and 19. Thanks to Pikkal, because he set up the tours for us, for Sentinel to come over.
Yeah, thank you for coming too. Thank you for coming too. And thank you for bringing me to Europe too.
And when I was there the first time, I really was super fascinated and fell in love with the Japanese reggae culture. And this is why I wanted to do this podcast and talk about your scene over there. And I'd like to begin at the very start.
Okay.
So this would be my question. When and how did it start in Japan? Because of course there's no exact date, I guess, same here in Europe, but we can say, for instance, here in Europe, the first sounds in Germany, or let's say Germany, the first sounds started in the late 80s, and it really started as a movement in the early 90s. But I guess Japan was way ahead of us when it comes to the evolution of a scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know like the exact date, you know, but from what I hear, I think the first scene came about maybe like 1984 or 5.
Wow.
I think it's around.
Yeah, Agi, I want to ask Simon about it too because I started the song in 1998. I didn't know what's going on earlier. Early 90s, So I don't know. In Osaka and Yokohama is a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, I started playing Mighty Crown from 1991, right?
Yeah.
And then we used to hang out in like reggae. There was like reggae and like reggae bar, like dancehall clubs, in
Yeah.
Yokohama.
Yeah.
That's where we used to hang out like 1989, 1990.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
Yes, and then from what I heard from those people, right? I think the scene came like I think early 1980s or something.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure about the exact date, but 83, 84, 85, but what I heard is Sugar Minot.
Yeah.
Sugar Minot is like the key person, like one of the first person like who taught reggae about sound system culture and like reggae and dancehall in Japan. It was Sugar Minor, Youth Man Promotion.
So he was. Yeah.
He brought like reggae and dancehall like to Japan. He was one not he. I guess that's what I heard. He was one of the first to teach like the Japanese people about reggae and like the sound system culture.
But how did it start? Because obviously Sugar Minor was in Jamaica or in England, and how did the link come to Japan?
Well, I guess one of the promoters in Japan like brought Sugar Minor and all Jamaican artists, to I guess they've been traveling a lot, like. But when you go way back, Bob Marley came to Japan too.
Yeah.
Like I think it was 1979 or 1981 or like one of those dates, Yeah, I don't even remember. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But Bob Marley was there, and reggae thing was kind of there, I guess. But the whole Jamaican sound system culture and the dancehall and reggae thing, like that came when Sugar Minot and all those and everybody came 84 or 5. That's what I heard.
Okay, that's also
that's news to me too.
Yeah, King. Yeah,
That's news
King
to
Jamie,
me.
a young boy, man, young boy.
I honestly say it
because that
because I started the sound. I started the King Jam 1998.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
when I talk about the German or the European reggae scene, I wasn't there obviously as well, but it's super interesting to understand where these movements come from and started, especially in Japan. With the Japan splash, the videos from the 80s when Tenazar was in Japan, that's something that didn't happen in Europe.
I watched the video before.
Yeah.
I think Japan Splash was like it was like one of the biggest reggae show in Japan, or not only Japan, like all of Asia. That was the biggest thing, and I don't know when it started, but probably like in the 80s, and then till like 95, 96, and it kind of like it slowed down from like 95 to like early 90s, but a lot of artists was there, because I remember when we went to Japan Splash, and I think it was 1991 or 2, I don't remember, like early 90s, right? We saw Supercat, we saw Ninja Man, we saw Dennis Brown, Johnny Osborne, like everybody was there, like all the big artists from Jamaica was there. Anybody who got a hit in Jamaica was in Japan that summer. Like it was that big.
That's crazy.
It was crazy, man.
That's crazy.
I went to Japan Splash too. I think that was the last one. The Buju was there. Then Dennis Brown supposed to be there, but he got sick, so that's why he couldn't show up. So then Sugar Minot went there instead of Dennis Brown. So then I remember the Sizzler was there, Luciano, Buju, and Red Rat. Yeah, because Red Rat and a Buju combination was hot in a late 90s, so.
Wow.
I think it's 1998.
Okay, so like when you talk about like the Japanese dancehall scene, the reggae and the whole sound system culture, right? When Sugar Minot came in the 80s, you had artists like Rankin Taxi, right? He was one of the foundation. Was one of the first artists to do like actually DJ. Are like artists. And then you had artists
Yeah.
like Naki. Naki was in like Youth Man promotion. He was really close with Sugar Minott. So
Okay. Wow.
Naki,
Oh, I didn't
yeah.
know that.
So Naki performed in Jamaica too. The Jamaica, what do you call that not Japan Splash, that Sunsplash, Jamaica
Yeah. Yeah.
Sunsplash,
Sunsplash.
yeah, reggae Sunsplash, yeah.
Mm?
He was one of the first Japanese artists to perform in Jamaica at big stage, because he was partying with Sugar Minott,
Okay.
and
Wow.
his
Yeah.
name is Naki, Nahki, and he could speak patois like Jamaican and like fluent.
That was my question. Did he do when DJing in Jamaica? He was doing it in patois, not in Japanese.
In patois, but he mixed little Japanese, but like strictly patois. Yeah,
Wow.
it was like different. Like he was like his patois was like so good,
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
Japanese. So like everybody's like, yo, what a Chinese man there. Like he's like Chinese Jamaican. Like his patois was so fluent.
Wow.
Like
Yeah. He did collab with Diana King.
Okay.
yeah, with a lot of artists though. Like he was big, and he was making Jamaica too. But Rankin Taxi, no. He is like the first DJ to like he's DJing singing Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
That was like kind of the difference with Naki and Rankin Taxi,
And was
and
that in
then
the 80s as well?
80s and like early 90s.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then Naki didn't have he was an artist, but Rankin Taxi, he had like a sound system. He owned a sound
Mm-hmm.
called Taxi Hi-Fi
Yeah. 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 I
from
heard
Tokyo.
about that.
Yeah, Taxi Hi-Fi is like they've been in the game for like over like 30, I don't know, like 30 plus years, from the I guess
And then Rankin Taxi, who did intro of 45 of Singing Melody, which is African beat rhythm.
that
Okay.
was
You listen, you listen to the 45, and you will listen to Rankin Taxi's voice.
Wow.
that was playing in like REFM hard though back in the days, because it was different, like a Japanese man, talking in patois.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously you got that Japanese accent, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it was different, so yeah, that was like the early era of like Japanese, like I guess reggae and dancehall. See who set up the scene. It's like Naki, you had yeah, like Rankin Taxi Hi-Fi, and you had like other people from Osaka too. I think the three major cities back in the days, like
Okay.
early 90s was definitely Osaka. Osaka had artists like Boogeyman. He was
Yeah.
big too. They had a crew called Brainwash Crew was kind of like popping in Osaka back in the days, and you have a song named Killa-san Movement. That
Mm-hmm.
Killa-san was like they kind of like they were like close to Stone Love, I guess. Like so they followed the Stone Love style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had their own clubs. They had a lot of like events going on. When you talk about early 90s, I think you gotta talk about Killa-san. That's like they had like huge
Yeah,
sound system from Osaka, and
exactly. So then every weekend they got like 1,000 people. Every
yeah, it was
weekend.
crazy. It
So
was
Killa
packed.
Movement used to have a big, huge club, which is a capacity of 2,000 people.
Wow.
But every weekend, club was packed.
Yeah, that's true.
That's huge numbers, man.
Yeah, like 1,000 people, 2,000 people, like easy, like every weekend. Osaka,
Every
you had
weekend.
like like sound like Killa-san, yeah, Brainwash Crew, like little more like underground street,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
had like everybody
Yeah.
respected them. You had artists like Boogeyman back in the days, and then in Tokyo you had like multiple sound system. You had like Taxi Hi-Fi, you had like sound like VIP sound system, you had like massive
VIP.
sound system, called massive, and
Yeah.
then Yokohama's like right below Tokyo. That's where we from. And then Yokohama had like like there was a song called Banana Size. That big bananas are like they're like weed smokers. So
Okay.
they
Okay.
named it
Okay.
after a spliff. Banana Size. And then we used to par with them like like every weekend. Like every week, all the kids around us, like teenagers, we all went to that club, and they were like performing like every week, like playing, like playing dance on reggae. That was like early 90s. You had like bunch of sound in Yokohama, like us. Yeah, like other sound, like at least 4 or 5 songs back in the day. That was like early 90s though.
That's crazy, because it sounds like really Japan was ahead of us when it comes to that, because in the early 90s it really just started in Europe, and
Right.
you tell us about dances with every weekend with 1,000 people. That's crazy. My next question would be, but you said reggae came through promoters who booked like Sugar Minott and the Youthman promotion posse,
Right.
but you also said that Bob Marley was there in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
In Germany, I'm gonna explain a little bit how it worked in Germany, because I think that's quite interesting for our listeners to compare the two evolutions.
Right.
In Germany, reggae evolved out of two bases, basically, out of the hippie movement, the Bob Marley fans, and then out of the hardcore dancehall scene, which evolved around the army bases, basically, like places like Westfalen and Hanover. That's where the first sound started, and Soundquake came from like regions where there was army bases and stuff. So my question would be, what influence did the GIs have, or was there an influence at all?
GIs, huh?
Because you have army bases in Japan, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We used to back in when I was a kid, I I'm born and raised in Yokohama, and then we had like army base right by my house, like 5 minutes away
Okay.
from my house. But it was kind of different though. Japan had their own scene.
Okay.
The army people didn't really come through, I guess, but you have parties, like in the 90s, early 2000s,
Yeah.
when the Navy ship come in,
Yeah.
like a lot of people come through the party, but it was more like hip hop than reggae and dancehall. They went to like hip hop parties, like it was packed with like Navy, Army people, that was kind of different though, a little bit different.
Okay.
I guess Japan had their own. They brought people from Jamaica, this, that, and what I think what's unique about like you said, like Bob Marley, like the hippie thing, Ray in Germany, right?
Yeah.
I think the crowd who went to Bob Marley and the crowd who went to let's say Japan Splash were a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm not sure though, because I wasn't really there. From what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
'cause, like that's like different era, So yeah, I guess he has some people who cross over, but this when Sugar Minott and the whole the Jamaica dancehall scene came through, it was like a different movement. That was more like Jamaican dancer with sound system. Like artists DJ on like turntables. It was more like sound system culture. That was like different, I think. Yeah.
So which Japanese song play with Sugar Minott in those days?
I don't even know, but I guess all the song, like from I guess Killa-san, Taxi, like I guess Taxi Hi-Fi. But it was like, like to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
I think the levels, right? I'm not being cocky or nothing, but the levels
Yeah.
was not really up there. The Japanese sound, it was like, the quality wasn't really up
Yeah.
back in the days, Yeah, because they just
I can guess.
it's they just trying
It just
to like, imitate.
started.
Yeah, it just started. So of course, like, but everybody was like into like the Jamaican dancehall, the sound system culture. So that's why what I think what's unique about the Japanese sound is that almost everybody owned their own sound system, the boxes, the real speakers. They kind of like keep it traditional. Like
That-
so.
That's also one of the questions I wanted to ask that later, but since we talk about it, I wanted to ask it now. This whole culture about having a real machine. I mean, the environment in Germany and Japan, I was there 3 times, is quite the same. The dances are held in clubs where there's a club PA, and it's not like in Jamaica where there's an outdoor lawn and someone string up and play. But still, in Japan, you see, as a matter of fact, when I come to Japan once a year, I play on more original sound systems like the machines than I play throughout the whole year in Germany, because there are almost no sounds with real sound systems. I mean, there are, and some of them are, most of them are like in the UK roots scene.
Right.
But it's so different in Japan. But the environment is quite the same. We don't have sound systems because it doesn't make sense for us, because we don't have anywhere to string up. But why is it that Japanese sounds, and they have the same kind of environment, they still keep it real and have those machines? Because you, for example, you have a machine. I know that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that was kind of like the thing, you know. If you want to be a sound, you gotta own a sound system. That was like the thing in the 90s, maybe till like early 2000. But that thing kind of like, I think it started like, you know, like fading out from like 2000, maybe 10. I don't know. I'm not sure about the date, but you know, like maybe late 2000, like maybe 2008, 9, 10. It kind of changed, you know, like I get, like you said, there's no more place like string up, you know, everything is like, it's kind of like slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
This whole traditional Jamaican sound system culture is kind of like slowing down, it's dying down compared to like 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
Which is kind of, yeah.
And then I don't know that is the real reason, but I remember the Simon or Samity used to say, what's the between different sound boy and a soundman? Sound boy who don't have a sound system, soundman who have a sound system. So that's why many soundmen try to build a sound system by themselves because of
No,
that.
we were talking fuckery, man, back in the day.
But I still remember that.
But I can understand that, and I appreciate a sound that has a real sound system. But sometimes, especially now that the scene is going down here, it doesn't make sense for us from an economically. But one day I gotta have a sound system just to have it. I love it, but no, I mean, I understand if why sounds don't really do it. But it's great that it still exists, even though in Japan it's going down. Like I said, there's still way more sounds with machines than in Europe from what I see. And next question would be, and we already talked about that as well, when we talked about the artist with the accent. And this is not meant in a disrespectful way, but Japan is so enthusiastic about dancehall, and when I go there, I see people who know the latest, the songs, the dance moves, the real sound systems. But what I realize is that a lot of people do not really speak English fluent, and this is a question: how did dancehall pave its way when so many people cannot really understand it, and how important is it for Japanese to to have it in their own language? Because what I also realize is that the MCs mainly talk in Japanese in the dances.
Right. That's a good question though. When, like, I guess in the early 90s, right, when we started playing sound, a lot of MC, right, was talking in patois.
Okay.
A lot. But something changed, you know, like we were in like, you know, like New York and LA, and like we went to Jamaica like early 90s, you know, and like Sammy T, Koji from Mighty Crown were living in New York from the early 90s in like Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of thought, you know, like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but back in the days, I guess the patois was a thing. But if, like you said, right, the Japanese people don't understand English.
Mm-hmm.
So there were like a lot of like movement. Everybody was starting singing like, you know, like in Japanese, DJ and singing in Japanese, and MC becoming like Japanese in order to like, you know, like in order to people to understand. That was the thing. So we were like talking in pure patois, you know, like early 90s, but around from like 90, maybe like 4 or 5, when we did like a first big song class in Japan. You know, we were MCing like strictly Japanese, and all the dub plates, you know, we like customizing like, you know, like were like in Japanese and everything, you know. 'Cause we had to like play Japanese artists in order for people to understand, and mix in the Jamaican, the patois, the English side too. So that was the thing. And then I don't know, I guess even if you don't understand the language, the dancehall and reggae music is so powerful. You kind of like feel the vibe, the bass line, the music itself, and the flow. People kind of understand one and two words.
Yeah.
Like let's say, for example, let's say Bob Marley song like "One Love," like even if you don't speak English, everybody kind of understand that. So all
Yeah.
the catchy, so like the easy to understand English songs was kind of like like popping in like Japan, I guess.
I agree with it because Japanese people basically love to sing. Like back in the day, Bokkanya say hey, 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 hey.
Yeah.
So people love to sing, even though they don't understand
Yeah.
English. Yeah,
And
I agree
And
with
like I
that.
said, it was not meant in a disrespectful way, because what I also understand is that it's harder as a Japanese to learn English than for a German, because
Yeah.
our languages are related. I mean, it's a foreign language, and if I don't learn it in school, I don't understand it. But
Right.
it comes from the same background, and it has the same structure, and it's easier to learn. So this was just an observation.
Right.
And when you already talked about the early clashes, and this is what I wanted to ask. When we talk about these early days, like the 90s, and what were the important events, the dances? For instance, here in Europe, we had like the rhythm clashes that was really very important, and then the Popa versus Charo clash that Elma promoted, which was the first clash that involved a yard sound versus a European sound, and then dances like the Sentinel Song Quick dance. These were like very important events to shape the landscape of sound clash and sound system culture in Germany. What were events that really were important to the Japanese sound system dancehall culture?
Well, like I said, early 90s was definitely like, like Japan Splash was big. That was big. But that was, I guess, like the kind of like the first wave of, the reggae dancehall scene in Japan. But a lot of people didn't really understand everything, but they just love festival, like the outdoor festival, like people go to like wherever people is there. So, yeah, that was the thing.
Okay.
And then when it started fading out from like, I guess late 90s, there were like sound like us and like other sound in Japan who did like a total different thing. We were like more into like sound clash and more into like like the New York vibes, the Jamaica, the Kilimanjaro, the Stone Love, like I guess the whole sound system thing was really street, like really underground. No, there was no media coverage, no nothing, but it was growing. You feel the growth. Every time we like do like an event, it was packed. Like, but there was no internet, no nothing, so it was just word of mouth, street talk. So that kind of like grew a little bit, little by little. And I guess I don't know if you talk about sound system, but they were like, I guess from late 90s to like, let's say the 2000 era. I think 2000 era like brought Japanese reggae and dancehall to like a different height. That was when we did think Yokohama Reggae Festival in Yokohama, and he had Highest Mountain in Osaka. Again, these were like the two big
Right.
events. When you talk about reggae and dancehall, like everybody went to that event. Like for example, our event started from 1995. We had like 150 people at first, and then next year it went to like
Okay, wow.
300, and then the year after that it went to like 500, and then 1,000 people, 1,500, 2,000 people, and then in 2003 it went to like 10,000 people, and then it grew, like 2004, 2005 it went to like 20,000 people, and 2006 it went to like we went to the
crazy.
stadium, 30,000 people, packed, sold out in like 1 hour, 30,000, like it was like crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that was
I remember that. Yeah, when I went to stadium, to go to Yokohama Festival. I feel like I was dreaming. Yeah, because Mighty Crown play at a big stadium.
That was crazy. Yeah.
I mean, this video of you guys in that stadium.
Yeah.
When we talk about dancehall in Japan, and I have a conversation with anybody from the dancehall scene in Germany, and I say, okay, I was in Japan, and everybody, that video with Mighty Crown in front of in the football stadium. This is what I don't know anybody from the German reggae scene who does not know that video. This is insane. I mean, this is really insane.
That was like crazy, like that was like a different movement, I guess. First movement, maybe like Japan Splash, and then it became to like our thing, Yokohama Reggae and Highest Mountain, Osaka. That was like the two major reggae dancehall event in the summertime,
And that was like the mid 2000s,
like early 2000 to like maybe 2010, 11.
Okay,
good 7, 8 years, 9 years maybe.
So basically that
highest mountain got 30,000 people also.
Wow.
25, I think.
25.
But it was close,
And that was a one-day event as well.
One-day event.
Yeah.
Okay, because we have the big festivals here as well, but these are like festivals by 2, 3, 4 days.
3 days, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was like one day, but the biggest difference, right, between like the early 90s, so-called like the first wave of reggae and dance in Japan, and the early 2000 era was that the early 2000 era featured 90% of Japanese, like song, Japanese reggae acts and dance artists.
Okay.
Back in the days, 80%, 90% were Jamaican. Like I said before, it was like Dennis Brown, like from Gregory Isaac, Supercat, Ninja Man, Shabba Ranks, Buju Banton. It was like different. So the whole era kind of evolved, and like I said, in order for like Japanese people to understand its music, we have to translate that in our own language.
Oh, but if it's in Osaka, we have already talked about Kira-san movement. They used to have a club which is named as Juggling City. So then I told you that they got more than 1,000 people every weekend. That's one of important event in Osaka.
Okay.
Because every young kids who is like 20 years old go to the Juggling City every weekend.
It was crazy. Yeah, like
wow.
So then they brought the Stone Lab because Simon
did we freeze?
That they close to Stone
You guys
Lab.
hear me? So we just had a few technical difficulties because my internet mashed it up. Living in the country, that's what happens. So let's continue, I guess. Do you know where we were before this whole thing happened?
I was talking about Kira-san movement. That
exactly.
Osaka.
They used to have in Osaka. They used to have a biggest club in Osaka.
That was when, like early 2000, right?
No, late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah. Because I remember that I went to Juggling City in 1997 or 8. So then they brought Stone Lab, Bokania, and Lucky D.
Okay, wow.
So they got like I think 2,000 people.
That's crazy.
So then
because I remember we played it at the one of the parties for Killa-san. It was Bone to Killa, and was it, I think, King Addies and Mighty Crown or something. I don't remember. I still have the backstage pass.
I remember the flyer. Killa-san movement used to bring same like Simon say, King Addies, then Tabuphonic, and then Kilimanjaro. And then they used to bring a lot of artists too.
And this was the late 90s, early 2000s now.
More like 90s, huh? More like 90s. Yeah.
Okay.
And
but
like, when you talk about like 90s thing, right? Osaka was really big, in reggae and dancehall. Osaka, like even us from Yokohama, we call Osaka like the reggae town, reggae city. It was
So
big.
that was basically the capital for dancehall in Japan
Dancehall,
these days.
Osaka was really big, and then it was really like Osaka, Tokyo was like the two big, like the major city. And then when we came about in the, like in the 90s, we kind of like built like the Yokohama name, like from late 90s to like early 2000s. So it was really like Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama was like really like the three major cities when you come to like reggae and dancehall. When you talk about the history from the past like 30 years, 3 decades in Japan.
Okay.
And then
yeah.
and then you had like like city like Nagoya City when there was like artists called Aki and Sawfish.
Yeah, I know them. I know them.
Twins, yeah. And they brought like Nagoya to like a level, and you had like other artists like Papa Yuji, Junior D, who used to play on the Banana Size crew in Yokohama, who's like our mentor in a way, like we got kind of like we got influence from like Papa Yuji, Junior D, and Aki and Sawfish and the rest of them. And,
if it's in Osaka, we have already talked about the Boogeyman, Red Monkey, and Bearman and Down Party. So they are originator of Osaka Japanese reggae artists.
Okay, wow. So
it was like all right to break it down easier, right? Let me just say what he said too, right? You had Rankin Taxi, and you had Naki, who was partnering with Sugar Minot, right? And then you had artists like PJ, who was like a wicked reggae singer. He was like half black and Japanese, so he could sing reggae. Really, he could speak English too, and he was really good too. And then you had Aki and Sawfish, Papa Yuji, Junior D, and then you had Boy Ken from Tokyo. He was really big too. Boy Ken, and you had Boogeyman from Osaka. Who else? Bearman, you said?
Yeah, Bearman, Red Monkey, and who else?
Well, these were like the major guys,
right.
like
in the 90s. In the 90s.
90s, yeah, definitely, and early 2000s. Let's say more like 90s, 80s, 90s.
Okay, and the hotspot in these days were Osaka, Yokohama, Tokyo. But was there also a reggae scene in the rest of Japan? Because here in Europe, in the peak, in the mid 2000s, there was in every little village. Like I said, I come from a village. It's 800 people live here, and there was a sound system everywhere. Was that also the case in Japan, or was it more like just in the hotspots like Yokohama, Tokyo, Osaka?
No. You had like let's say, no, you had like a lot of dances was going on, all over the country, like all over. I think it grew from after 2000.
Okay.
Everybody's keeping party. Yeah, like every sound system in every we call it prefecture in Japan, like states.
Yeah.
You had every sound, every reggae dancehall club in every parish, every prefecture, every state.
This is crazy because I have a little story on that one, because Mighty Crown made people outside of Japan really realize how big dancehall and reggae is in Japan. I knew about Mighty Crown, but we talk about the early 2000s now. I was in reggae music, but more like into roots music, not too much into sound system culture. But I knew the name Mighty Crown, and I come from a little village. 800 people live there, and we only have a few shops. Like one is a bakery, and one of my friends, one of my best friends, he did an apprenticeship there to become a baker. Right. And so he was into reggae already, had dreadlocks and stuff, and there was an exchange program where apprentices from different countries did like exchange programs to learn how to become a baker. There was a guy from Japan, like he was 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
He was living in my little city for like 1 year. And we didn't know that he was into reggae music. As a matter of fact, I don't really know if he was in reggae music or just into Mighty Crown. But after like a couple of months, my friend, he came to me and said like, you know Mighty Crown, right? And I said, yes. And he said, look, I got these CDs. That guy who works with me in the bakery from Japan, he has those Crown Juggler CDs. He burned them for us. and then we realized how big reggae's got to be if by coincidence some guy from Japan ends up in my little village and he's into reggae music and he gives us Mighty Crown tapes. And then on top of that, we saw the videos of you guys in the stadium, and then we realized reggae's got to be huge in Japan.
But it's same to me too. I used to live in New York.
Yeah?
Yeah, from 2000 to 2005. When I started living in New York, everywhere I went to, people call me as a Mighty Crown, Mighty Crown, Mighty Crown. Everywhere I went to, people call me as a Mighty Crown. Sometimes I say yes.
So this was the mid 2000s now, and you said it already that it became more and more like in Japanese language, and the artists became more important.
Yeah.
I guess we can compare it a little bit. So it became more like Japan centered. Like the artists became more important, from what I understand, right? Who were the big artists of that era?
Too. Yeah, artists and song.
Okay.
That era, right? Okay. I think the whole evolution of reggae and dancehall in Japan, when I compare it to Europe,
Yeah.
right, it's kind of similar. It's not just Europe, When we busted 99 World Class, right, that was like late 90s, right?
Yeah.
And then the Japan scene was growing too. But from like 2000, a lot of songs, there was like a lot of sound, like was created, was made.
Yeah.
From like, I think from late 90 to like, let's say mid 2000. Like you see bunch of songs, like let's say, for example, King Jam, what Pikkal just said. You had songs like from all over, like all over Japan, like so many songs, like at least 500 songs, I guess.
Wow.
500, 500, maybe like 1,000 songs. It just everybody start playing songs.
Right.
From after 99, 2000.
Yeah.
And then, along with that, you had the Japanese artists like DJs and singers.
Yeah.
They were growing too, and they started signing to like the major label, them like Sony. You had like label called EMI, Universal. The major labels. A lot of like the reggae artists. They signed to like major labels, and one of the key players in the 2000, like I guess up to now, is you have artists like Pushin,
Mm-hmm.
who did like she's like a great singer. She's still real good, but she kind of like changed like the whole movement too, from the late 90s to like 2000 era,
Okay.
And then he had artists like Fireball.
Yeah.
And you had Mighty Jamrock,
Real the
Skywalker,
Jumbo March, Takafin, Boxer Kid.
Yeah, they were in a crew called Mighty Jamrock,
Mm-hmm.
And then
Energy Head.
These were like the major players, and you had like artists like Moomin, who was a great singer too. They kind of like evolve and change like the whole Japanese reggae dancehall scene in Japan. That kind of like brought us to the stadium too. That was like one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you said, like everything was popping, in the early 2000 to the mid 2000, because like when we busted 99 and we our first tour, Europe tour, was in Germany.
Yeah.
With Popo. That was year 2000.
Yeah. Big up Popo anytime.
Big up Popo, man. That was, I think I remember, that was the first German tour for us. That was 2000.
Wow.
And then from 2001, 2, 3, we saw like I saw like the shift, We went there like almost every year,
Yeah.
And we went to Italy, like we saw like the whole movement. And I was talking to a lot of people, like you said, everybody's more like listening to roots reggae music back in the days in Europe.
Yeah.
But this whole dancehall movement came when Ellie, Sean Paul, Boss, in the Wayne Wonder, the Diwali song, like that was like early in 2002, 3, 4, 5,
Exactly.
The whole, I think it was a worldwide movement, not just Japan, because I'm like, comparing to like Germany, Italy, everything changed, like let's say like the non-Jamaica, non-black, like us, like you
Yeah,
guys, everybody, right? But everybody was into like dancehall and like reggae. It was like the whole movement. So
exactly.
everything was popping in like the European tour, like the American tour, like Japan tour. Everything was like really the numbers was like you can't compare it to no. The numbers was really up there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was huge. Easy 1,000 people, 2,000, 3,000 people. Like every time we touched down, it was like crazy. A lot of people was there.
You already said it. You boss internationally 99 after the World Clash.
Yeah,
And from what I would say, Mighty Crown is one of the biggest brands when it comes to dancehall, when it comes to the sound system culture. Almost no sound from outside of, of course, the Jamaican sounds, and then the sounds from the diaspora, like Addis from New York and Saxon from London. And
Right.
even Rodigan, he does not come from within the culture. He's not from a Caribbean background, but he comes from a country where where the culture is there.
right.
But outside of that diaspora and from countries where there's no Caribbean community like Europe or mainland Europe and Japan,
Right.
there's no sound that did it like Mighty Crown. I mean, you guys, like I said, you have the stadiums and then the Nike collabos and you have your own clothing line and everything. Mighty Crown is one of the biggest brands. How did that happen? Of course, it was 99 the World Clash, but still, I mean, from there on, it was just through the roof. And how important was that the management by Irish and Chin? I'm not saying that you couldn't have done it alone, but a good management is
Right,
certainly
right.
very important if you want to
Definitely.
reach those stages.
It was like two different worlds, The reggae scene in Japan and the Jamaican community, the hardcore dancehall, sound clash dancehall reggae scene was like a two different world.
Yeah.
So we had to think we needed like two brains, because we can't just play the same music and talk in patois in Japan. People's not gonna understand.
Yeah.
It's like playing in like compete. It's like playing in like two different fields. Like it's like two different worlds. So we kind of like adapt. We kind of like brought like the two thing together. And one of the I guess um one of the big element, like one of the big thing that brought Mighty Crown to a different level in the international scene was definitely Chin. Like Chin, Irish and Chin. He started managing Mighty Crown from like after World Clash. After we won 99 World Clash 2000. He started managing us, so that's like almost like 20 years. And it was like a total different thing, But when you talk about song clash thing, like song clashing as business wise,
Yeah.
you're not gonna make no money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only clashing, because we lost a lot of money, but we invested a lot of money, and we used that so-called victory, that hype, to do like other business.
Yeah.
Because I guess that made us kind of unique, because I didn't see no sound system doing their own clothing line. I saw no sound system, not even like a reggae dancer artist who did Nike collabs. You had like nobody, period.
Exactly.
But you had hip hop people, you had like other genres of a DJ artists, like rappers, like hip hop. They were like kind of big. They were doing like, collab with like, major brands. They had their own clothing line, they had like Jay-Z, you had like, Diddy, who had like Sean John, Rockaware in the 90s,
Yeah.
like they had their own thing. But I was thinking, why reggae and dancehall people can't do the same thing? That was my thing, so we should do our own thing, because reggae and dancehall is big too, because we represent that too, so
Yeah.
yeah, we always trying to think outside the box.
Yeah.
That was our thing, Yeah, like even in Sound Clash too, even in like dub plates, we always try to like customize, because nobody really did the hardcore customizing, before us. They cut one or two songs, but
Yeah.
we kind of wanted to like change the whole game, and like in, I don't know if you recall 99 World Clash, but back in the days, when you talk about song clash, like tune for tune, right? For example,
Yeah.
it was all about new. It was more like about new tune.
Yeah.
Who got like the most Bone Tequila? Who got like the most, Beanie Man or like the hottest tune back in the like Capotan or that was the thing. But we like we love Foundation, hardcore reggae, the singer.
Yeah.
When I say hardcore, like the singers, we love them so much, and we were like clashing with Jaro. We needed those songs, that's why we had like like all those hardcore, like the singing thing, and we kind of like little shifted the whole tune for tune game, I guess. I don't know if the Jamaican people is gonna admit it, but when you check the facts,
Yeah.
you could check the history, but I think we did like a great part in changing that a little bit. Of course he had other sound doing it at the same time, but because we were like from Japan, we were like different, in a way, because we were like competing against like the top Jamaican, like with the Chupa them, with the Panta them,
Yeah.
the Matarans, and the Fire Links, and Squingy from Bass Odyssey was like, it was different, and you had Radigan too, so we kind of used that victory, that hype, to create like a next movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our thing though. We always, and one of the, like, to be creative, I guess, like was one of the major thing to like to do what we could do. That's what I
Definitely.
think still.
Definitely. So far we talked about the history of the Japanese reggae scene, and this is the main topic of that podcast.
Right.
But still, when I got two big selectors from Japan, I still gotta ask you, and I guess our listeners want to know, how
Right.
did you guys personally get into reggae music and started the sounds? And this question is for both of you. So either of you can start, and the same question is for both of you.
When I listened to reggae, when I touched the reggae music first time, when I was junior high school student, when I was 13 years old. So my friend, who is the same classmate, he has one cassette tape. He read me one cassette tape. Then I didn't know what kind of music is, but that's reggae. So then I started. No, my first reggae artist is Shaba.
Yeah,
So
you
when I-
told me that.
Yeah, when I started playing the cassette tape, so first song is Trinidad Lord of Gal. So then I was like, oh, what kind of music is? So but I liked it. So then that's how I started listening to reggae. Then Simon has already talked about Osaka is called reggae town. So then I live in countryside. It's far from 1.5 away from city.
Yeah.
So I live in countryside. And then every weekend, everybody bring radio. So that they play reggae cassette tape everywhere. So then if they find the spot, so then they put the radio. So then they started the reggae party in the daytime.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's how I get into reggae music.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the same from the country, just like me.
Right.
Way out on the country.
So when did you start your sound then, though?
1998.
So exactly the same year like Sentinel, because we did the double anniversary last year in Japan, and we were supposed to have a dance in Chiba with Mighty Crown, but it never really worked out because the typhoon was
for real.
coming.
Yeah. I remember that. It was cancelled. Yeah.
Exactly. And how did you get into reggae music, Simon?
I started playing Mighty Crown 1991.
Yeah.
When I was 18.
Okay. Wow.
And then before that, it was I was into hip hop,
Yeah.
like straight hip hop. Like 89, 90. It was hip hop, but all my people around me, right in the streets of Yokohama, we were like skaters.
Yeah.
And the hot spot was the reggae club, the reggae bar. So every weekend, everybody used to go to this, club called Club Crossroads, CR, and there was another reggae club back in the 80s, late 80s called Zema. That was a hot spot for us,
Mm-hmm.
And I was into hip hop, but we used to go to this reggae club like every weekend, right? We had skaters, like everybody around us, we went there. And then I was like maybe like 17 years old or 16 or 17 years old when we used to like hang out in those clubs. And then we're like, yo, let's start our own sound system. Let's start our own crew.
Yeah.
And then we formed Mighty Crown. And I was 18, Sammy T was 16 years old, and you had members of Fireball,
Yeah.
who was like the founder members of Mighty Crown, who started Mighty Crown with us. They were like 15, 16 years old. We were like teenagers, man, when we started Crown.
Wow.
Yeah, and then everybody had their different, I guess everybody had their own opinion and how they started, like, like who they got influenced, who they got inspired. Me, I could only talk for myself, but it was Yellow Man, like Super Cat, Ninja Man. It was like the dancehall acts,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dancehall artists. Yeah, that was like that was my like first like like influence, I guess. But when you talk to Sammy T, I know he's gonna talk about Bob Marley. Bob Marley wasn't my first influence, like it was like 2 years, 3 years later. But mine was more like dancehall. I love dancehall.
Yeah.
It was like really, yeah. It was that rude boy thing. Like Ninja Man, Super Cat, like Yellow Man, and and that was my first like introduction to like this whole scene.
Wow. So
Yeah.
these are the two routes that you can take. Either you come from the dancehall, from the hip hop side, and go into dancehall, or you come from the roots reggae side, and then this was how I did it. I come from the roots reggae side, and then I dig dancehall, and from there I went to hip hop and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So that was
yeah.
the thing, though. Yeah, I think that was the thing. Early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s.
Wow. That's a long time ago, man.
Yeah, man, that's a long time ago, man. That's like almost 3 decades ago, like.
Exactly. And before that, we talked about one difference already between Europe and Japan with the real sound system. A next difference that I saw when I was there, I don't know if it's really that much of a big difference anymore, but it definitely was a long time that for years after, with us in Europe, mixtapes didn't sell, records didn't sell. In Japan, you could still sell mixtapes and records. Is that still the case? And how important was that for financing the whole stuff? Because what I understand is that a lot of sound systems made proper money from selling mixtapes when we in Europe didn't sell mixtapes for years.
Yeah, mixtapes, CDs was like the thing for, I guess, for Japan. It used to sell a lot, but the artists overcharged the Japanese sound too. So
Right. Yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
we had to pay for like double the price,
Wow.
Yeah, but right now it's very hard. I
So
don't think
it's not like before. Mixtapes do not really
No
sell
way,
again.
no way.
it's like almost it's done.
Okay.
From what I see, it's almost done. There's no more CDs. Well, you got one and two, but it's like really small amount, So everything is more like streaming,
Yeah.
YouTube. It's like more like like free thing, I guess, But
Yeah, it's
back in
called
the days,
promotion.
like like back in the days, like let's say in the 2000 era,
Yeah.
it was like that was like kind of big though,
I think
But
so.
even when I was there in 2017 for the first time, and even now, I still saw mixtapes in like clothing stores, and you can buy it. Even though it's not as big as before, it still sells. In Europe, I don't know anybody who still presses CDs on and sells them in stores. So this was what I was really impressed. Even though it's not as big as before, it still exists in a way
Little bit.
where I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know if it exists. I guess if you say so, if it exists,
Yeah,
but
but it's kind of for promotion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
you don't
it
really
kind
sell
of
it.
went down as well.
It really went down. Really
Oh,
went
okay.
down. Yeah, because I can't remember when my last time was I went to buy like a CD, you know, because I haven't gone to like a CD store in like years to buy
Me neither.
CD.
Yeah, me
That
too.
thing is kind of like extinct now, you know, like everything is like, you know, like I guess streaming
Yeah,
nowadays.
man.
Yeah,
That's the future. That's the future. One more big difference that I saw
yeah,
is, and you already talked about it. You said Kochi and Sami Day was living in New York. Pikkal, I know you lived in New York for years, and this spending time abroad thing. There are
yeah,
Europeans who spend time in Jamaica who live in New York, but not that amount of people. The amount of people from Japan that spend time abroad is
yeah.
way bigger than Europeans. How
That's
important is that for the scene? How important is that for yourself to be in that scene? Because yeah, and why is that so popular for Japanese people in the reggae industry to go and live abroad for years?
I think reason is that Mighty Crown won World Clash in 1999. So when I listened to Mighty Crown cassette tape, I mean audio, I was shocked that in those days I couldn't speak any English and patois. So then I was like, yo, these guys speak English and patois perfectly. So then I decided to live in New York City because I really want to speak English after I listened to Mighty Crown cassette tape. Then, of course, I went to New York 1999 to see World Clash.
Oh, you was there.
No, but unfortunately, I couldn't make it because because I mean, yo, those days, I mean, when Mighty Crown played at the warehouse, 1990 World
Yeah.
Clash, yo, man, people was over capacity. So then I
Wow.
saw too many people. Then it's like a club's owner versus audience. Yo, let me get in. But a club's owner did not want to let them get in because it's over capacity. So then
But you was there. You was there
yeah, I was
in front
there,
of the
so
club.
then- but
Okay.
yo, this is the first time, first time I went to New York. So then I was scared. So then it's like,
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, Queens, New York was like really crazy. It was rough back in the days, you know, like
yeah. So then,
yeah, man. 90s New York was like crazy, like really rough days.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
then police came to the club. I mean, in front of warehouse. Then police tried to shut down the club. And then I was like, "Oh, our class is over." I mean, did not make it. So then
Okay.
one yellow cab passed through in front of me. So then I took the cab and then I went back to the city. So then after I gone to Manhattan from Brooklyn, World Clash start.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I could not make it.
But you was there. And
I was there. I was in New York.
but just
And-
couldn't
and-
go in, huh?
and that was you went there, I mean, to live there because you wanted to learn the language and see the culture, right?
No, that time I definitely went to New York to see World Clash.
No, I mean after that, what was
Oh,
the
after
reason why you went there? It was the language that you wanted to learn, yeah, right?
Yeah, because I want to speak English more than patois.
Okay.
So that's why I prefer to live in New York more than Jamaica. So then I like New York sound like King Addies, Master V, Artura, and LP. So I mostly like New York sound, so that's why I decided to live in New York.
Yeah, but that's true though. Like you said, a lot of Japanese went to Jamaica and New York to live. It was mostly like New York or Jamaica, I guess.
And-
Yeah.
That was the two, you know, like the main the hot spot, I guess, for us. You know, like the thing is that reggae, dancehall, the whole sound system culture, it was born in Jamaica. You know, so
Yeah.
we had this mind that, you know, we actually got to be there to like really like, you know, experience and witness the whole thing, you know, because we were like listening to like, you know, like the cassette tapes and everything, but you didn't really understand the full 100 of it, you know. So you really had to be there. And back in the days, um, Brooklyn, Queens, you know, that was a thing, you know.
Mm.
You know, that was like other than Jamaica, that was like the hot spot, like the, you know, the main part
Yeah.
where you know, like a lot of Caribbean was living there, like, you know, like a lot of Jamaicans, of course, you know. And like, I don't know, like, to be real, to witness the whole thing, you actually got to be there. And there was like a lot of Japanese, like, you know, like, um artists, like when I mentioned Papa Yuji earlier, Aki and Selfish, Junior D.
Yeah.
They lived like in the ghetto, you know, of Jamaica back in the days,
Mm.
like the early '90s. And yeah, so we went to the ghetto, like Cockburn Pen. That's where Super Cat came from, you know.
Yeah.
We used to go to like every day, you know, like to like experience the street vibes, the whole, you know, the core of so-called, you know, dancehall, you know. And like, that was crazy. It was the whole, everything was so crazy, you know. And
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that Papa Yuji did a rubber dub with Super Cat, right? So because he used to live in Cockburn Pen, right?
I don't know, I don't remember that. Maybe Junior Cat.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, but a lot of Japanese, you know, like, used to live in Jamaica. You know, like they used to live there for like 1 year, like 2 years, and then like they went to New York after that, lived there for like a year or two, and then went back to Jamaica. I went back to Japan and came back again.
Wow.
You know, yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, because like I guess that was the thing, you know, to learn the whole thing. 'Cause we loved the culture and the music so much,
Yeah.
you know, like we just went there to
Yeah,
live. We're like, yeah, we gotta go there, man. We gotta go there. That was the whole thing, because the music is there, you know. If you come back to Japan, you know, there's like, you won't see bass artists, you won't see Stone Love, Jaro on a regular basis.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to Jamaica or New York, you see them like every week, or, you know, like every month, or, you know, like, that was the thing. So the thing you love was in New York and, like, I guess Jamaica. We didn't go to I didn't go to London in the '90s,
Yeah.
but, you know, I know that Saxon was there. A lot of songs like V Rocket, you know, like, and, you know,
Yeah.
he had like Coxon, China One, like a lot of song was there in England. I know, but, you know, never went there in the '90s. But it was New York. Everybody went to New York, and then to Jamaica, back to New York, to Japan. That was
Right,
the
right.
routine.
That was the route.
I
That was
think
the
so.
route, man. Yeah.
I always admired that approach and that dedication. I really do. I really do. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Japan has such a scene and such a professional scene when it comes to the people know the stuff. They do not just pick certain things out of the culture. They know the culture. But let's talk about the scene now, since we talked about the
Right,
history
right,
already.
right. Yeah.
How is the scene now? Because once again, I can offer my view from Europe. The peak was also in the 2000s, from 2000 to 2010, just
Yeah.
like in Japan.
That's true.
With the success of artists like Sean Paul and then the local artists. Dancehall is still there here, but it's not on the level like it used to be. Like I said, there was dances and sound systems everywhere, and the kids was very much interested in dancehall, and it was the hip thing to be in dancehall. Like I said, dancehall is still here, but it's not on that level like before. How is it in Japan now?
I think it's the same.
Okay.
Like I think it's exactly the same. Not exactly, but, you know, I think it's the same in Japan too. Like, from what I see, is like you said, the early 2000 to maybe like 2010, 2011, 12, you know. Um People who used to go to dances, to like the reggae events in Japan, you know, they were in the 20s, early 30s,
Yeah.
you know. And then, you know, that's like 15 years ago, you know. So they're in the 40s now, like late 30s, 40s, and they got family, you know. They got kids to take care, and everything. The responsibility kind of like changed, you know. You have like, everybody got like, you know, like started having like different responsibility. and a lot of people don't go to clubs. They used to go to clubs like every weekend, but they go to clubs maybe like once a month, once in 2 months, once in 6 months, and it kind of like,
once a year.
yeah. I guess it's not just Japan or Germany. I think it's like a worldwide thing. But we still kind of like tour, like we go to Miami, we
Yeah.
still go to like, Jamaica, we still go London, like England, we tour every year. But we see like the whole change. The people is getting older too.
Even
I think-
even in the core markets.
Yeah, man. That's what I think too. Like for
Yeah, I
example,
think so.
for example, Sound Clash. The
Yeah.
class thing too. The crowd is getting older too. Like everything, the players, the key player is like everybody's in the 30s, 40s.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think I don't know, this is my point of view, my perspective, but what I think is we need like a young blood to change the whole thing.
Yeah.
'Cause when you check it out, Bone Tequila and Beanie Man and even Buju, all of them, when them bust, they were in the late teens or early 20s,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So like I think one of the reasons why hip hop is really big is because they attract like the young people them. All the trap artists, the rap artists right now, they're like young, but of course you got the Jay-Z's and you got the Eminems and you got the OGs, but like the young kids them, they follow the young music, so called.
Exactly.
I'm not
And
saying I'm not saying that the dancehall and the reggae, the 90s reggae or 2000 reggae is not good. That's my thing. That I
Yeah.
still love it, and I'm gonna love it for life. But this is year 2020. So time changes, everything evolves. So I guess that's one of the reason reggae dance in Japan is kind of like like slowing down compared to like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and in mainland Europe as well, because what people got to realize, we don't have like Jamaican or Caribbean communities here or in Japan, so it's all the following is based on young people who think that dancehall is cool, and if they don't think that dancehall is like super hip and they
Right.
stick to hip hop, then that's a problem. So yeah, it's time for new blood everywhere. But still, dancehall is there. And what are we
Definitely.
talked about the hotspots back in the day? Is there a shift, or is it still those cities like Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama?
You got different cities still, everybody doing their own thing. Right now you got, like everything is DIY. You could do it yourself,
Yeah,
like YouTube, you could like release your own song. You could record your song in your own house. You don't have to actually go to a real studio because your laptop is your studio now. So everything's so branched out right now. So it's like you can't really say there's like one city, but what I could still say is like Osaka's still big. Tokyo got their thing going on. Yokohama still you got Nagoya.
yeah,
You got different cities, but I guess the main city like when I say main, like the big city is still like like Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, maybe Kyushu, Fukuoka, maybe. But it's like spread out. Everything is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
spread out. Yeah. But everything is kind of like small, man. Everything is so small right now, to talk
Yeah.
to talk the truth. Everything is so small right now compared to like even like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
or
and I
10
think
years
it's
ago.
important to address that, because people from outside of our countries, when I talk to Americans, Jamaica, they still think that Europe is popping like 10 years ago, and it's important to make people understand that this is not the case, especially when it comes to dubplate prices. It's not like we make all that crazy money like back in the day, which is
Yeah.
we didn't really make that money, but you know what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
small now. But let me ask you this question now. What is the biggest genre in Japan now? For us in Europe, it's definitely hip hop.
Hip hop. I guess it's
I
hip hop.
think hip hop.
Worldwide.
In Japan, when you talk about like let's say street and like that kind of genre, it's hip hop.
Okay.
But you still got like the the Japanese pop music
Yeah.
that we don't really listen to is big, you know. I know you got like the German pop star too is still big, like the same thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then you also got like the rock band, the rock people, them.
Yeah.
You know, the rock festival is still big in Japan compared to like reggae. It's like is rock festival. You see rock festival all over in Japan. Still attract like easy 10,000 people, 20,000, 50,000 people. It's huge.
Okay, wow. Wow. What do you think? I mean, it's always hard to predict the future, but do you think the hype is coming back, or is dancehall on a point where it's merging with different styles? What I see here, it's dancehall is merging a little bit with hip hop. Afrobeats is big now, which is a related genre. Is that an evolution that's also happening in Japan with the Afrobeats, with the hip hop thing? And do you think that the hype for hardcore dancehall is coming back at a certain point? Just your opinion, of course, because like I said, it's hard to predict the future.
When you talk about Afrobeat in Japan, it's not big. I don't think Afrobeat is big in Japan.
Okay.
People still kind of listen to it, but
Yeah, but it's very minority.
yeah, like Afrobeat is not big in Japan.
Okay.
You know, I don't know because you got like the streaming crowd who listen to like Spotify, Apple Music.
Yeah.
And those people maybe don't come out to clubs or so I can't talk for them, but from what I'm seeing is like Afrobeat is not that big, in Japan. Hip hop is bigger. Hip hop I think is bigger when you talk about that black music genre. It's like hip hop is I think is big. It's still big.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
People know the hip hop song more than dancehall and reggae in Japan.
And are the two scenes like hip hop and dancehall mixing, or is it straight like dancehall crowd, hip hop crowd, or is it? For us, it was years that it was dancehall and then the hip hop crowd, and now it's coming together. It's merging, it's mixing. Is that also something that's happening in Japan?
No, it depends on if he found the artist who is like a Sean Paul and Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Then those artists, when those artists get a big, I think hardcore reggae scene is rising up with those hype things. That's what
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Okay.
It's mixing in certain places, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not really. It's a little bit divided from what I see.
Okay.
The crowd is a little bit different.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. The hip hop is like like people go to hip hop parties more. Like they go to see the artists, like whoever's like popular in Japan. The rapper them.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit divided from my point of view.
Okay.
It's sometimes mixes too. You got the hip hop DJ and the reggae selectors. Them, they do like their same parties and stuff. But
Yeah.
it's still, yeah, it's not mixing enough.
Okay. And we talked about the reggae and the different genres right now. Let's talk about the different reggae genres now, because the international reggae scene is very diverse. I mean, you
Right.
have the ska, the rocksteady, the early reggae crowd, the digital dancer crowd, then the people who collect like the original presses. Then, of course, our scene, the Jamaican style dancehall scene, and then you have the UK roots crew, which
Right.
Mighty Crown is also involved with Kochi, because Kochi
Right.
has his Scorcher Hi-Fi label, and
Yeah.
he's into that.
Yeah.
So how big are these subgenres in Japan? Because what we see here is that we see a rise of these root sound systems. There's like back 15 years ago when everybody was starting dancehall sounds. Now I see a lot of youths starting hardcore King David style sounds with one turntable.
Turntable, right? Yeah.
Is that something that's also happening in Japan?
Well, Koji is really into that UK dubs, the roots, the UK, the step buzz music, right?
Exactly.
In Japan, when I talk to Koji, and I've been to like couple, like events, couple dances, but it's not that big. And he's saying it's not that big too. But like you
Okay.
said, in Europe, it's growing. That's what I heard too, and yeah. And in Brazil, I heard that's growing. In Mexico,
Exactly.
I heard it's growing. Yeah, that's what
Brazil is crazy. We was in Brazil on tour in 2015, and we was one of the first dancehall zones that really did a tour there, and we played for like a couple of hundred of people, and the promoter was like, "Yo, this is a huge turnout," and we was happy. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but at the same time, King Earthquake from the UK was on tour. He was playing in front of a couple thousand people. So this is like internationally, it's getting big now.
Yeah, in Japan it's still small, but you got the major so-called the roots, the stepper zone, the UK style so-called, and then Koji been producing a lot of like the UK the so-called I don't know how to say in exact words, but that the steppers type of music.
Yeah, the steppers music.
Yeah, he been producing that and like selling in vinyls, like producing vinyls and stuff. And that thing in Japan is not that big, but it's there though. It's definitely there, They got their own scene. Small crowd, but it's like they got the core, it's popping still. But when you talk about dancehall now, our thing is like a total different crowd.
Okay, yeah, definitely here as well. I mean, those two crowds.
Yeah.
But Pikkal, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay, it's just the connection with the phone, which by coincidence,
right.
anytime I do one of those interviews, at the end of the interviews, when I'm coming to an end and I try to find like a way to end up always the video connection mash up. So I think that's a sign. But I'm done with my questions. If you want to say something,
well, when you talk about future, the sound system culture, I think everything's gonna change right now, because like the same era is not gonna come back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but this dancehall and reggae thing, this whole sound system culture thing is still there. Like it's not gonna die. It's still there.
Of course.
Yeah, it's still there, and like it's never gonna die. Like I said, and we just love it. But I guess everything's gonna evolve and change. Nobody knows the future, but
nobody knows. But I agree. The sound system cannot die because it influenced so many different genres in the world, and it will never fade away. I'm 100% sure. This is what I'm sure of.
Yeah, man. So I'm like still like looking forward to the future still.
Definitely.
It's not going to be the same time, same era. We're living in a different era, but music's going to evolve. Dancehall, reggae is going to evolve, but it's still influential.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
And I'm looking forward to the future as well, especially when this whole COVID-19 thing is over. And like I said, I'm so happy to come to Japan to play music there. I don't know if it happens this year, but if it doesn't happen this year, then I'm gonna come back next year. And I kind of weird to play for the Japanese people again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Japan is very welcome to you.
Thank you very much. And we cannot wait for you guys to come back to Europe, of course.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the link is strong.
I can't.
The link is strong. Yeah, me neither.
I love Europe, man.
Europe, nice, man. Europe, nice, man.
So I would say thank you for this great conversation. Big up Pikkal, big up Simon, big up to the rest of your crews.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Big up to the whole of Japan. I cannot wait. Like I said, I cannot wait to come back. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you guys.
Man. Bless the love. Big up.
Same to Europe too.
Yes, I.
Yeah, man. Big up yourself.
Thank you.
That was the second special edition of Make We Talk, the Dancehall podcast by Sentinel. Once again, big up to Pikkal, Simon, and the whole Japanese reggae fraternity. And definitely big up to each and every one of you who was listening. If you like that podcast, follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud. We do a podcast every week. It comes out on Wednesday. Usually it's in German, but sometimes we also do it in English. And also make sure to follow us on IG, Facebook, and SoundCloud. I mean, Sentinel Zone. And stay safe, stay healthy. Bless up.